The holidays are in full swing. For millions, this season means gift giving, eating sweets, and lots of commitments. Whether you're hosting for the first time or hopping on a train or plane to see loved ones, this time of year can feel a bit daunting and exhausting at times. In fact, close to 40% of Americans reported that their stress levels tend to increase during this time of year, according to an American Psychological Association study. On top of this, add the stress of a continuing pandemic that's lingered on through 2021.
I think people baseline have a lot of expectations, have a lot of difficulty through the holidays historically. I think for years, stuff comes up for people, expectations are high.
That's Dr. Frank Anderson, a psychiatrist and author of Transcending Trauma: Healing Complex PTSD with Internal Family Systems Therapy. Anderson believes it's especially important this year to manage holiday expectations. After months or years of not seeing certain friends or family members due to the pandemic, there can be some pressure to show your best self or host the perfect party.
I think it's important for everyone to kind of take stock ahead of time. It's like, what am I really hoping for here? What am I wishing to accomplish? Right. And I would also say, equally important is what are the expectations of my family members?
It's smart to have these conversations with others ahead of gatherings. It's okay to openly ask for help or set a hard rule at the party, like no talking politics at the dinner table. Each family has their own quirks and challenges. It's important to remember that this time is about coming together rather than digging up differences.
It's not that some people have great families and some people don't. Everybody has difficulty. It's the people that have worked through the blockages and don't project fixing their past problems with the current holidays that have a better time of it. It's a level of acceptance, it's a level of being with what is in a way that allows them to be more pleasant.
Partners can also share expectations with each other, like how much time they'll spend at these parties, or what's the appropriate amount of money to dish out on gifts this year. If you're traveling to see friends or family, it may not be a bad idea to book your own Airbnb or hotel. That's what Anderson is doing this year.
I haven't seen my family in 2 years. We're going to be with them over the holidays. There's a part of me that has this, I have to be with them every single minute I'm there, right? We haven't seen them in so long. I have to spend all the time with them. And in fact, that's not true. If I really took care of myself, I'd be able to regulate the amount of content. For example, this year, we're renting a house. Is that this year, our family has decided to allow some built in space if we need it. So we don't have to be with them constantly, 24/7. So, what do you need to take care of yourself is really, really important because I think it clears some of those perfectionistic expectations.
Another way to get rid of some of the pressure is to keep reminding yourself of what really matters during these months. It's not about achieving the beautifully decorated house or gifting the trendiest presents.
How many people focus on getting the holiday cards done, making the cookies, buying the right gift, getting the tree set up? Oh my gosh, we only have 30 days until Christmas, this kind of thing. Getting the best price for the best present. Like we have historically done this as a culture and society, and I think we've been off base from the get go, right? I think it's always been distorted in some ways. And my hope is really for people, and I do hold this as a hope, is that the last couple years have shifted some of our priorities. So many people have lost family members through this pandemic, and that really brings into focus so many people have lost jobs, kids have lost so much socially. There's been an enormous amount of loss embedded in this pandemic, and for me, my hope is that we will shift our priorities and shift to really look at what is important.
Sometimes gaining a different perspective can help as well. However, Anderson says giving back shouldn't come from a place of I have to, but rather I want to.
when it truly comes from within, it feels very different and it's received differently because there is no expectation in that. And there is research that shows, and some of the people that do work on compassion research, for example, show that when we're more open hearted, when we're more aligned, giving from free will, that a lot more comes back to us. We do have more gratitude. We do feel more joy.
At the end of the day, the holidays are about spending time with loved ones and giving thanks. For some, it's about religion, while for others, it's all about tradition. Either way, the focus shouldn't be on creating a perfect event or highlighting people's differences.
What if you go into the holidays and you can focus on what you have in common with these people? What if you can focus on what you're grateful for in them, what you guys share together, instead of sitting at that dinner table and start getting into battles around difference? So I really think it's important for people to really pay attention to difference, be aware of difference. It's okay to accept difference. But what about join in what you have in common? Because I think we have a lot more in common than we have difference.
And for some people, mending these relationships and coming together may not be a possibility this year. For the sake of your mental health, it might be a good decision to decline the invitation and spend time elsewhere.
There are many, many people who have suffered enormous losses, right? If you choose to not be with your family this holiday, I think it's really important, if it's too painful and too dysfunctional, to choose not to be with your family. That's not a bad decision, especially if there's a lot of trauma and there's enough dysfunction that it's really too painful and not good for yourself. It's okay to not be with family. However, don't sit home alone. Reach out to friends. Try to have the family of choice, because isolation and loneliness in the holidays is really, really difficult and challenging.
Whichever way you're celebrating the holidays, keep in mind what's important and what fulfills you. This can mean stepping out and taking some time for yourself in the midst of a busy family gathering, or even changing your plans altogether. There's no set guideline on how to spend this season. It's a time to be thankful, refresh, and reset. To find out more about this topic and our guest, Dr. Frank Anderson, visit viewpointsradio.org. Check out his new book, Transcending Trauma, available online and in bookstores now. For more behind the scenes, search Viewpoints Radio on Twitter and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson. Coming up next week.
This is really when banks started pushing loan money out the door to get it as quickly as possible into students' hands, because the more they did that, the more Sallie Mae would guarantee them profits using taxpayer money.
The dark side of loans for higher education. Then,
all those things that had been mysterious, we can now read because people deciphered the Rosetta Stone.
How the Rosetta Stone brought a dead language and mysterious culture back to life. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.